And welcome to the Georgia Southern Postgame Wrap-Up Show. I'm Josh Aubrey. Joining me from the Statesboro Herald, the sports editor and Georgia Southern beat writer, Mike Anthony. Mike, we're here at Bobby Dodd Stadium in Atlanta, where the Georgia Southern Eagles come out on the short end of a 35-24 defeat to Georgia Tech. I guess this game can be summed up best in the fact that the first two series of the game, bang, bang, Georgia Tech scores 14 points. From that point on, Georgia Southern played pretty well. I guess there's some things to look forward to, but again, the big plays come back to haunt the Eagles in a loss.
Yeah, you don't want to get too negative about it, but 7 minutes into this game, things look like they were headed towards a lot worse place than 35-24. Not only those two quick scores by Georgia Tech, but once Georgia Southern comes down, gets a touchdown of their own, another 50-yard play for the Yellow Jackets, sets them up for a third touchdown, 21-7, just about halfway, a little more than halfway through the first quarter. Didn't look like Georgia Southern was going to be stopping anybody, but as you said, Georgia Southern's defense, a little bit better plan the rest of the way, able to at least keep this Georgia Tech offense in check, at least to the tune of no more big plays. Unfortunately, still allowing a few too many points, and in the end, those first few big plays just getting the Yellow Jackets too far out in front for the Eagles to come back.
2 years ago here, it was the whole first half that kind of got away from the Eagles, and then the second half, it was flip-flopped, and Georgia Southern really Tech was lucky to come away with the victory in that one. This time around, Tech was pretty much ahead for most of the game, never really in jeopardy of losing this game. But there were some positives for Georgia Southern. Their offense looked a little bit better, and despite the three big plays that ended up in 21 points, they played pretty well, especially in the second half defensively.
Yeah, well, I would say that you could look at this as more of a toned-down version of that 2014 game. And while it's true that Georgia Southern never had the ball with an opportunity to tie it or take the lead, you can also say that Georgia Southern did have more of the momentum. The better play was getting the better of it for about a quarter or so of playing time. They managed to get into halftime at just 21-10, pretty decent considering how they started out. They get the ball to begin the second half, drive it into Georgia Tech territory, but that's where things change. Georgia Southern put themselves in an opportunity to get back into the game, but in a few different drives in the third quarter were unable to put points on the board, really make Georgia Tech start to remember the ghosts of 2014. I think that if any of those first couple of drives in the third quarter produced some points while the Georgia Southern defense was playing well, maybe you put a little bit more pressure on them, maybe Georgia Tech makes a mistake.
All right, well, let's get out and see some highlights from Georgia Southern and Georgia Tech. Georgia Southern taking the field at Bobby Dodd Stadium for an interstate matchup with Georgia Tech. For a good crowd and a large GSU contingency on hand, former Eagle head coach Paul Johnson patrolling the sidelines, former Statesboro Blue Devil Freddie Burden in at center for the Yellow Jackets, who strike early, a familiar play as Justin Thomas keeps it on the option and races 58 yards for the touchdown, and quickly it's 7-0. On their next possession, Thomas goes to the air where he finds Clinton Lynch, who goes 65 yards for the score. And less than 5 minutes in, Tyson Summers looks up at the scoreboard and sees it's 14-0. But the Eagles would finally get something going offensively. Fabian Upshaw scrambles ahead for a first down. Later, Upshaw going to the air as he spots Matt Breida, who turns upfield for another first down. Capping the 18-play, 78-yard drive, it's L.A. Ramsby for the score. The lead cut to 14-7, but the Yellow Jackets answer quickly. First, Thomas, the option pitch to Marcus Marshall, who turns upfield and goes 48 yards deep into Eagle territory. And then it's former Ware County standout Dedrick Mills in for the score, 21-7 Yellow Jackets. The Eagles trying to answer in the second quarter. Wesley Fields, the first down carry, and then it's Youngwei Koo from 44 yards away as we go to the half, with the Eagles trailing 21-10. Not much action in the third quarter. The Georgia Southern defense stepping up. Ironhead Gallen on the stop here. But just before the end of the third, Justin Thomas going deep to former Benedictine standout Brad Stewart, who makes a nice grab. We go to the fourth quarter, still 21-10. And the nice fake with Thomas and cut back for the touchdown as the Georgia Tech lead extended to 28-10. The Eagles don't quit. Kevin Ellison in for a banged-up Upshaw, and he finds Monte Crockett for a first down. Later, same drive, Ellison connecting downfield to Keegan Williams to the 10, and then it's L.A. Ramsby getting the call. He's in and justifiably upset as a low blow by Tech's Brent Mitchell. The Eagles cut the lead to 28-17. But again, Georgia Tech responds. Again, it's Ware County's Mills from 20 yards out. His second touchdown of the game, 35-17. The Eagles respond. Ellison, the screen to Fields, who picks up 22 yards. And a cheerleader. That drive capped by Ellison to B.J. Johnson, but it wasn't nearly enough as the Eagles fall 35-24.
We're Kyle and Jared Lott of Smack TV,
Each week we go into millions of homes to show you great hunting.
and we couldn't do what we do without TC Outdoors doing what they do.
It doesn't matter if your adventure takes you fishing in the local pond or on a cross-country hunt.
TC Outdoors is going to be there for you with gear, know-how, and support, just like they are for us.
They've been here for years. We know them.
And we trust them.
So come by TC Outdoors on Northside Drive. Tell them Jared and Kyle sent you.
And after the game, we had a chance to talk with head coach Tyson Summers and some of the players about the loss here in Atlanta.
You know, it was a tough one. We had times in the game where we felt like we could have took the lead or went downfield and scored, and could have been a different game. But hey, loss, come back tomorrow, get better, watch film.
Do you feel like you guys got better this game?
Yes, sir. I do feel like we got better today. We still took the loss, but we got a lot better than we did last week.
It's always hard when you lose, but I felt we came out here, we played a good team, a tough Georgia Tech team. Those guys did a great job. Like I said before, they just came out more ready to play than we did.
What's the feeling in the locker room after a game like that?
Oh, it's hurt. We're all hurt. It's a loss. There's nothing more worse than a loss. There's 3 losses in a row. It's something I haven't been a part of. None of us have. We just make sure that we come out next week and practice to prepare for our next game.
Georgia Tech, they did a great job. Putting themselves in perfect position to make big plays, and defensively, it's really tough, to give up those big plays. And throughout the game, we just had to be able to bounce back and try to eliminate those big plays throughout the game. Certain areas we move forward, try to eliminate those penalties. We just really got to eliminate those big plays. That's what's been killing us. And this is just a game where we pretty much got to shake it off and look for it and finish the season strong.
There are no such thing as moral victories. There's nothing, no part of that ever wants to make you sit there and feel good about any part of today. At the end of the day, we walked in this game feeling like we were playing an opponent that we certainly expected to beat, and did not come out the gate the way we needed to. Certainly with the start that we had, with the again jumping down and being down 14-0 before we could really blink. Again, we got to have a better plan on how to start fast, and again that starts with me and some things that we need to be able to make adjustments to when it comes to practice. I will say this: I am very, very proud of the players in that locker room for continuing to play as hard as they played, continuing to believe. There were a number of different times during the game where where we jumped outside of being within a score, and obviously they continued to make plays, continued to be able to get points back on the field for us. I thought the defense after the first 2 series did a nice job of really trying to settle in, and then in the second quarter again, Georgia Tech came back and scored to get it to 21, and then I thought that we had a number of series there in a row where the defense was able to sit there and stop them. I thought we had better rhythm on offense today than we've had in a while. We certainly wanted to address our issues from last week, in the fact of not being where we wanted to be on third downs, and I thought that drastically improved today. Our red zone offense drastically improved today. We're not excited about where we're at by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think that I saw a lot of improvements particularly on the offensive side of the ball, and I continue to think and feel that we play in moments of each game as well as we can play on defense, and that's kind of how I felt today. Obviously, again, we've got to start faster on both sides of the ball to give us a chance to not feel like we're running uphill for the rest of the day. I think that there was a lot of improvements. Certainly being upset about the way we played 10 or 11 days ago versus Arkansas State. and really trying to make sure that one, we were keeping our football team in the right mind frame, that we practiced the way that we needed to, that we didn't have people turn around pointing fingers or doing any of those things. I felt like our team walked in here today and prepared to win this game, and to full-fledged believe that they had. And again, I think that you see drastic improvements, offensively from on third down and in red zone. Certainly things that we tried to address, tried to work, and I did. I thought that we played with a little bit better rhythm today. And while our specialists still continue to play well, and we played solid on special teams, we really got to find a way to take one step farther and be able to make sure that we can create a takeaway here or there, or be able to find a way to score on a touchdown.
Well, Mike, a little bit to build on. I'd say the last couple of weeks you could argue that Georgia Southern took a step backwards. This week, at least it looked like they took a step forwards in some regards. They had no turnovers in this game for the second straight game, and they played a little bit better offensively. And besides a few big plays on defense, they played pretty well on that side of the ball. This coming up week, they go on the road for the longest road trip of the year, down over to New Mexico State, who's a lot better team this year than they were the last couple years. And now this could be a big trap game for Georgia Southern, as it's the fourth game of their four-game road swing. Then they got to come back and play Appalachian State. Your thoughts on going to the road for New Mexico State next week?
Well, on their first three-game losing streak since 2009, I don't think that it helps Georgia Southern at all to be looking at short turnarounds or rivalry games. Right now, it's time to stop the bleeding, and you'll hear Coach Summers talk about how there's no moral victories, but there were more positive things to build off of. But the thing is, the time for building and getting ready to win, I think, is done. They're in a little bit of a hole. They're back in the middle of the pack in the Sun Belt. This is a game that, as tough as it is playing on the road for the fourth straight game, this becomes more of a must-win for Georgia Southern. And New Mexico State, not a slouch, definitely a team capable of beating anybody in the conference. So Georgia Southern's going to have to just gear up for one more long plane ride. Maybe it'll help that there are no hurricanes in the way, a 7-day week, a normal schedule. Maybe that helps to get them back on track. If they can build on just the positives and take away those negatives, play the game like they did for about 2 quarters today, I think that they have a good chance of turning this around.
All right, well, that'll wrap things up from Atlanta. For Mike Anthony, I'm Josh Aubrey. Thanks for joining us. Hope to see you again soon.